You loved them in the very moments they were certain no one ever could. The avoidant person is going through something that directly clashes with their deepest beliefs about who they are, how relationships work, and what they believe they are allowed to receive. They are slowly realizing that you continue to love them through all of their defensive behavior, their emotional distance, their hot and cold cycles, their criticism, and their inability to fully show up. They were actively pushing you away. This realization is not simply surprising to them, it is deeply unsettling because it challenges the core belief that has shaped their entire way of relating to others and protecting themselves. From early on, the avoidant person learned that love comes with conditions, that it depends on being easy, low maintenance, and almost flawless, that expressing needs, pain, or their true self leads to rejection or withdrawal of care. They built their whole protective system around the idea that if someone truly knew them, if someone saw their needs, their wounds, and their limitations, that person would decide they were too much or not enough and would leave. Their entire life has been organized around managing this feared rejection by never allowing themselves to be fully known, by keeping emotional distance that prevents anyone from getting too close, by pushing people away before those people can see too much and walk away. But you broke all of these expectations. You noticed their patterns. You experienced their emotional shutdowns. You were hurt again and again by their behavior. You saw their limitations and their dysfunction clearly, and you still loved them. This reality does not make sense to the avoidant person because it does not fit their internal model of how love works. They believed their behavior would naturally drive you away, that their defenses would slowly kill your feelings, that the pain they caused would make you stop caring. On some level, they were almost waiting for this outcome because it would confirm their worldview and justify their emotional walls. But instead, you kept loving them even when they gave you countless reasons not to. You stayed far longer than they expected. You tried much harder than they believed they deserved. You looked past their defenses and saw the wounded person underneath, and you offered care and acceptance to that wounded part, even while you were being hurt by the defenses protecting it. The avoidant person struggles to accept that this really happened. They cannot easily fit it into their understanding of themselves or into what they believe they are worthy of receiving. Your love, existing alongside all of their dysfunction, becomes living proof that directly contradicts their most deeply held beliefs. And this contradiction is creating intense confusion, shame, regret, and fear in a way that no external success, achievement, or surface-level validation ever could. Their disbelief is centered on the realization that your love survived full exposure to their worst behavior, to the defensive patterns they were certain would destroy any real care someone had for them. This disbelief is not about pretending to be humble or trying to get reassurance. It is genuine shock rooted in the belief that they are unlovable once truly seen, that love depends on maintaining an acceptable image, and that anyone who witnesses their real struggles and defensive reactions will eventually pull away and leave. Looking closely at this disbelief reveals both how deep their wounds are and how meaningful what you offered them truly was. The avoidant person cannot understand how you still love them after experiencing their withdrawal and emotional unavailability. They know how painful their distancing can be. On some level, they are aware that when they pull back, become cold, go quiet, or stop engaging, it creates confusion, hurt, and anxiety in the people who care about them. They have seen this pattern repeat in past relationships, where their withdrawal eventually led partners to feel exhausted and leave. They expected the same outcome with you. They believed that their emotional absence would wear you down, that you would stop caring because they were giving you so little to hold on to, that their unavailability would naturally push you away. But instead, You kept caring even when they were distant. You maintained your love even when it was not being returned in ways that felt reassuring or stable. This persistence challenges their belief that they must constantly manage and control emotional closeness in order to keep people from leaving. The avoidant person also cannot understand how you still loved them after they pushed you away or treated you poorly during their defensive moments. They remember being cold, critical, or sharp in ways that were unfair. They remember moments when they said things meant to create distance, when they focused on your flaws to justify pulling back, when they made you feel like you were asking for too much or that the relationship itself was a burden. They expected these moments to destroy your love, to confirm that they are too difficult or too damaged to be loved for long, but you did not immediately label them as cruel or beyond hope. You tried to understand what was behind their behavior. You gave them chances they did not think they deserved. This patience and grace goes against their expectation that people will leave as soon as they show their harder sides. It forces them to confront the possibility that abandonment is not as inevitable as they believed. They are also struggling to understand how you still loved them after seeing their vulnerability and their wounds. Throughout the relationship, there were moments when their defenses slipped. Moments when you saw the scared and hurt person beneath the guarded surface. They may have shared parts of their past, moments of fear, or quiet insecurities when their guard was down. You may have recognized their patterns as protective responses to old pain rather than signs of who they truly are. They expected that being seen this way would make you lose respect for them, see them as weak, or decide they were not worth the effort. Instead, your compassion seemed to grow. You did not use their vulnerability against them. You did not label them as broken. You saw their pain and felt drawn to care rather than to escape. This response directly contradicts what they learned to expect from others. They cannot understand how you still love them despite their inconsistency and their inability to fully commit or move the relationship forward. They know their hot and cold behavior is confusing and painful. They are aware that their fear of commitment, discomfort with future planning, and resistance to deeper milestones create instability that most people eventually walk away from. They expected you to reach a breaking point, to demand more clarity or leave, to choose someone who could give you the security and progression they struggled to offer. But you stayed longer than they imagined. You tolerated uncertainty longer than they thought anyone would. You continued loving them even when they could not give you the reassurance and commitment that love usually inspires. This endurance confuses them because they do not understand why someone would accept so little when they could find someone capable of giving so much more. They are also processing how you continued to love them even after repeatedly showing that the relationship was not their top priority. They made choices that placed work, personal comfort, or independence above connection. They canceled plans, kept strict boundaries that blocked intimacy, avoided fully integrating you into their life, and consistently chose space over closeness. They assumed these actions would send a clear message that you were not important enough, that you should stop investing, that you should find someone who would truly prioritize you. But you kept caring even when you were not being prioritized. You kept loving even when their actions showed an imbalance in effort and importance. This one-sided devotion continuing despite clear signs it was not being matched is something they cannot easily comprehend. Their disbelief deepens when they realize that you loved them not because you were unaware of their patterns, but because you understood them. You were not blind or naive. You saw the push and pull. You noticed how they sabotaged closeness. You understood that they were defended and wounded, and that they might never be able to give you what you truly deserved. And still, you chose to love them. This awareness removes the comforting idea that you stayed only because you did not understand what was happening. You understood, and you stayed anyway. That means your love was directed at who they really are, not just at the image they present or the potential you hoped they would become. Now their inner world is struggling to process the fact that you saw their wounds and stayed. Their mind is trying to make sense of how being truly seen did not lead to rejection, but instead seemed to deepen your care. This realization challenges the belief that has guided their defenses for most of their life. The belief that being known equals being abandoned is being shaken, and that creates emotional chaos. They are trying to understand how you looked past their defenses and saw a wounded person rather than someone unworthy or flawed. When they withdraw or react to intimacy with fear, they believe they are exposing something shameful about themselves. They expect others to see this and decide they are too broken or too difficult. But you interpreted their behavior differently. You saw someone protecting themselves from old pain. You recognized learned survival strategies rather than permanent flaws. You understood that their struggle with closeness was shaped by experience, not by lack of value. This way of seeing them is unfamiliar because they have always judged themselves harshly for these patterns. Knowing that you did not share that judgment creates internal conflict they do not know how to resolve. They are also processing that you responded to their wounds with compassion instead of judgment or exploitation. Their past taught them that vulnerability is dangerous, that showing pain leads to being hurt, dismissed, or controlled. They expected that if you truly saw how wounded they were, you would either lose respect or use that information against them. Instead, you responded with care. You gave space without abandoning them. You offered support without overwhelming them. You acknowledged their pain without making them feel small. This gentle response is what they needed but never fully believed was real. Realizing that they experienced it with you yet could not fully accept it because of their defenses creates a deep sense of regret that lingers long after the relationship itself. The avoidant person is slowly realizing that staying with them, even while clearly seeing their wounds, required strength rather than weakness from you. This realization is beginning to change how they understand what your love truly meant. At first, they may have told themselves that you stayed because you were too attached, too afraid to leave, or lacking enough self-worth to walk away from someone who treated you poorly. That story made it easier for them to dismiss your love as something small, unhealthy, or not fully real. But now their perspective is shifting. They are beginning to understand that remaining present with them required deep emotional strength, clear awareness of what was actually happening, and a conscious decision to keep offering care to someone who often made that care difficult to receive. Seeing your love as strong and intentional rather than weak and unconscious gives it far more value, and that makes losing it far more painful for them to face. The avoidant person is replaying specific moments when you saw their wounds most clearly and how you responded during those times. There may have been moments when they felt exposed or fragile and fully expected you to pull away, yet instead you stayed close. There may have been times when they shared something painful from their past and you listened without judgment, meeting their vulnerability with calm acceptance rather than fear. There may have been moments when they tried to push you away during intimacy and you did not chase them in panic or disappear in retaliation, but instead stayed steady and grounded. These moments are returning to their mind now with a new understanding of what they represented. At the time, their defenses may have blocked them from seeing the meaning of your actions. Looking back now, they can see that these were rare moments of deep acceptance and care, experiences they may never encounter again. They are also beginning to process that you were able to see both their wounds and their worth at the same time. You did not reduce them to their trauma or treat them as someone broken who needed fixing. At the same time, you did not ignore or deny the real struggles they carried. You held a complex truth that they were wounded and still valuable, struggling yet still strong, guarded yet deserving of love. This balanced way of seeing them is what allowed you to stay. You were not blind to their issues, but you also did not define them by those issues alone. The avoidant person finds this difficult to understand because they themselves struggle to hold this middle ground. They often see themselves in extremes, either believing they are completely fine and need no one, or believing they are deeply broken and unlovable. The space you occupied, where they were imperfect yet still worthy of love, is a place they do not know how to stand in. As they reflect, they are also facing a painful irony. You saw their wounds and stayed, offering the very kind of acceptance and care that could have helped them heal. You offered a relationship that could have been a corrective emotional experience, one that might have shown them that closeness can be safe and that they can be loved even when fully known. But their defenses were too strong for them to receive what you gave. They could not trust that your acceptance was real or that it would last. They were unable to lower their guard enough to take in your love. Instead, they pushed away the very thing that could have helped them most. Now they are left to process the sadness of that self-sabotage, the awareness that they may have destroyed their best chance at the healing and safety they have always wanted. The realization that you continued to love them through all of their defensive behavior brings intense shame and confusion. The shame comes from seeing the gap between how they behaved and how you treated them in return. The confusion comes from not understanding why you would offer love to someone who treated you the way they did. These feelings are especially hard for an avoidant person, because shame and confusion are emotions they usually try to escape through distance, control, or emotional shutdown. But the recognition of your steady love makes it harder for them to avoid these feelings. They are being forced to sit with emotions they normally push away. Their shame is rooted in the realization that they hurt someone who truly cared for them. During the relationship, their defenses allowed them to justify their actions. They may have told themselves that you were too needy, too demanding, or asking for too much. They may have framed their withdrawal as a reasonable response to pressure they believed you were creating, but recognizing that you loved them and were trying to build something real changes that story. If you were acting from care and patience, then their withdrawal was not a fair response to your flaws. It was a reaction to their own fear. Their criticism was not an honest assessment of you. It was a way to create distance. Their hot and cold behavior was not about you failing to meet their needs. It was about their inability to tolerate the closeness you were offering. This understanding brings shame because it means they were the source of much of the pain in the relationship. It means they hurt someone who did not deserve it, someone who was trying to love them with sincerity. The shame deepens when they remember specific moments when they were especially cold or dismissive. They may recall times when you opened up emotionally and they responded with distance or harsh words. They may remember moments when you expressed your needs and they made you feel like you were asking for too much. They may think about times when you offered care and they pushed you away abruptly. Viewed now through the lens of your continued love, these moments feel heavier and harder to justify. What once felt like self-protection now looks like unnecessary harm. Alongside the shame is deep confusion. They genuinely do not understand why you continued loving them when their behavior should have driven you away. This confusion is real and comes from how they understand relationships. In their internal model, love is often conditional. It exists when needs are being met, when the relationship brings more comfort than pain, and when behavior remains acceptable. By that logic, your love should have ended once the relationship became difficult, once they stopped showing up consistently, or once their behavior caused hurt. Yet your love remained. This challenges everything they believe about how love works. They begin to question whether you stayed because you lacked self-worth, or because you were too attached to leave, or because you did not know your own value. At the same time, They are starting to sense that there may be something about love they do not understand, something deeper that allowed yours to continue even when circumstances suggested it should not. This creates inner conflict. Your love does not fit into their existing framework, and they do not know how to explain it. There is also confusion because your love contradicts their belief that they are unlovable when truly known. If they believe that showing their real self inevitably pushes people away, then your staying does not make sense. If revealing their wounds always leads to rejection, then why did you stay after seeing them? Your continued love creates a painful mental tension. Either their belief about being unlovable is wrong, which would require dismantling their entire defensive system, or your love must be minimized or dismissed in some way. But now that they are beginning to see your love as genuine, dismissing it feels increasingly dishonest. They also feel shame for not recognizing the value of what you offered while it was still there. They assumed your love would always be available. They handled it carelessly because they did not understand how rare it was. Instead of appreciating being loved by someone who could see their wounds and still choose them, they focused on protecting themselves from vulnerability. Now they can see that what you offered was not ordinary. You offered patience with their pace, acceptance of their real self, and the willingness to stay steady through their emotional defenses. Realizing that they did not value this when they had it adds another layer of regret. This leads them to question their own judgment about the relationship. If you truly loved them throughout all of this, then were they wrong about you being too demanding? Were they wrong about the relationship being impossible or unhealthy? Were they wrong to believe that leaving or pushing you away was the only option? These questions are deeply unsettling because they suggest that their decisions were based on fear rather than reality. They begin to see that they may have destroyed something meaningful because they could not fully see or trust what was being offered to them. All of this creates an inner storm for the avoidant person. They are holding shame for how they treated you, grief for what they lost, confusion about the nature of love, and fear about what it means if their long-held beliefs are wrong. They are facing the possibility that they were loved more deeply than they allowed themselves to recognize, and that their defenses kept them from receiving something that could have changed them. This realization does not bring immediate clarity or peace. Instead, it forces them to sit with discomfort, regret, and unanswered questions about themselves, about intimacy, and about what they may have lost through their own fear. The possibility that they were wrong, that their defensive views were distortions instead of clear reality, creates deep confusion inside them. It shakes their trust in their own judgment and in their ability to make healthy decisions about relationships. This is why your love frightens them more than your absence ever did. The most painful and confusing truth for an avoidant person is realizing that you still love them even after all their defensive behavior. This realization does not comfort them, it terrifies them. Your absence, while uncomfortable and full of regret, still fit inside their defensive system. They could explain it, they could survive it, but your love, especially love that remained present through their worst moments, threatens the foundation of how they survive emotionally. It forces them to face truths they have spent their entire life avoiding. Your love is more frightening than your absence because it challenges the story they have built about themselves. It exposes the depth of their wounds and shows why they cannot truly receive love without deep healing and serious inner work. Your love terrifies them because it directly challenges their core belief that they are unlovable. This belief is not just an idea to them. It is the structure their entire emotional world is built on. If that belief collapses, everything they built on top of it starts to fall apart. The avoidant person has organized their life around the belief that they are unacceptable when fully known. They believe that if someone truly sees their flaws, their fears, their needs, and their wounds, they will be rejected. They believe love only exists if they perform well, stay strong, stay distant, and never need too much. This belief is painful, but it has given meaning to all their defenses. It explains why they pull away, why they shut down, why they avoid closeness. If this belief turns out to be wrong, if they are actually lovable even when imperfect and wounded, then all of their defenses were unnecessary. All the distance they created, all the relationships they sabotaged, all the intimacy they avoided were done to protect themselves from a rejection that may not have been inevitable. This realization is terrifying because it means they wasted years, sometimes decades, living behind walls they did not need. It means they isolated themselves from love that could have helped them heal. It also means they must face responsibility for destroying relationships that could have survived if they had trusted what was being offered. Facing the truth that they defended themselves from something that was not as dangerous as they believed creates unbearable regret and shame. It forces them to see that they were not just unlucky in love, they were actively protecting themselves from it. Your love also terrifies them because it demands a response they cannot give. If your love was real, steady, and offered without asking them to be someone else, then a healthy response would be appreciation, effort, and growth. It would require them to meet you halfway, to work on their patterns, and to learn how to receive what you are offering. Deep down, they know they cannot do this. They know they are not capable of returning your love in a healthy and consistent way. They know they cannot give you the relationship your love deserves. This awareness creates a crushing sense of guilt and inadequacy. They see that something valuable was placed in their hands and they dropped it. Your absence could be explained away as your decision, your choice, or your limits. But your continued love shows that the limitation was not yours, it was theirs. You were willing. They were not able. This realization deeply damages their self-image and exposes their emotional limits in a way absence never could. Your love also creates a sense of obligation they do not know how to handle. Avoidant people are deeply uncomfortable with emotional debt. They struggle with the idea of owing someone care, effort, or emotional presence. Your patience, your understanding, your willingness to stay and see their wounds creates a debt they feel they can never repay. They cannot give back the time you invested. They cannot undo the pain their defenses caused you. They cannot make up for their inability to receive your love when it was there. Because this debt feels impossible to repay, it becomes easier for them to minimize your love or emotionally distance from it than to sit with the awareness of what they lost. Thinking about your love forces them to face their failure to show up, and that pain feels overwhelming. Your love terrifies them because it shows them they had exactly what they needed and destroyed it through their own fear. They can accept loss caused by bad timing, incompatibility, or outside circumstances. These explanations protect their ego and reduce responsibility. But realizing that you love them through all their patterns, that you are offering acceptance and safety, and that they pushed it away because of their defenses places full responsibility on them. They did not lose you because you stopped caring. They did not lose you because you were too demanding. They lost you because they could not receive love. This kind of loss is the most frightening because it is self-created. It shows them that they are their own worst enemy. It shows them that no matter how much they try to protect themselves, they cannot protect themselves from their own fear. This realization creates deep helplessness and shame. Your love also forces them to confront the difference between what they thought they needed and what they actually needed. They believed they needed independence, space, freedom, and emotional distance. These beliefs guided their behavior. But your presence showed them that what they really needed was acceptance. They needed someone who could see their wounds without rejecting them. They needed steady care that did not demand perfection. They had what they truly needed and rejected it in favor of what felt safer. This realization is terrifying because it means they cannot trust their own instincts. The beliefs they relied on to guide their life led them away from healing, not toward it. It shows them that their emotional compass is broken and that truth creates fear about every future choice they might make. Your love terrifies them because it shows them they lost something rare. They may meet other people who want them, who are attracted to them, or who show interest, but they know that the kind of love you offered is uncommon. Love that stays through their defenses, love that sees their wounds, love that does not demand change as a condition for care. Most people will not have your patience. Most people will not stay through the push and pull, the distance, the withdrawal. Realizing that they may never experience that kind of love again creates fear about their future. It makes them question whether they will spend their life alone behind emotional walls. It makes them fear that they permanently lost their chance at deep connection. Your absence is easier for them because it confirms their beliefs. It allows them to say love does not last, closeness is dangerous, and people leave. Your love is terrifying because it challenges these beliefs and demands change. It forces them to face the possibility that love was available and that they could not receive it. The terror they feel when they realize you still love them is not about you. It is about the truth they are forced to face, that they could have been loved, that intimacy was possible, that the problem was not their worth, but their inability to receive love. This realization creates deep existential fear because no defense can fully protect them from it. Your love becomes a mirror. It reflects their worth and their tragedy at the same time. It shows them they are lovable, yet unable to let themselves be loved. This truth is more frightening than abandonment or rejection because it exposes the reality they have spent their entire life running from.